Today we're going to be working on lesson 12.6 in our Go Math books. I believe it's page 729. And you're going to get a chance to draw some quadrilaterals today. So our essential question is, how can you draw quadrilaterals? We've learned how to classify quadrilaterals by the number of pairs of opposite sides that are parallel, by the number of sides of equal length, and by the number of right angles. So if you're paying attention, we talked about, putting it right into your lap. And here they are. Here's the P, parallel. Here's the length, and there's angles. It's a little bit out of order, but there's your length, angles, parallel that we've been working on. So today you're actually going to get a chance to draw some quadrilaterals. And we've been doing some of that in the classroom. So we're going to have to sort and draw a little bit today. And the biggest thing is you really got to know the attributes of the quadrilaterals. We've been doing a lot of work on learning each one and what they have differently. So activity 1 is you're going to use grid paper to draw quadrilaterals. I should have already given you a ruler for this. So we're going to use a ruler to draw line segments from points A to B, B to C, C to D, and then D to A. So basically all we're doing is connecting the dots to make a quadrilateral. A to B. Now yours will be neater than mine because you have a ruler and I don't. All right, so obviously this should be a little bit straighter here from B to C, but you get the point. All right, so once we draw it, we have to figure out what is that shape. So go through your lap. Are the lengths all the same? No, all the lengths are different. What about the angles? They're not all right angles. So what about parallel? We can see that the top is parallel to the bottom. So we know that it only has one pair of parallel sides. Now, some of you yesterday in your work were saying this is two pairs. No. This is one pair, so it means two lines. If it was this one, then it would have two pairs, but it doesn't. It has only one pair, therefore it is a trapezoid. A trapezoid is any quadrilateral that has one pair of parallel sides. And I did learn how to erase the entire thing all at once. Boom. Now my scrolling has been really weird today, so hoping that we can scroll through here. I've had to stop it and start it over a couple different times today. There we go. So activity 2. Draw a shape that does not belong. So now you kind of got to figure out what they are and draw a shape that does not fit in with this category. So once again, use your ruler. Here are 3 examples of a quadrilateral. Draw an example of a polygon that is not a quadrilateral. So here we have, it looks like a rhombus or a parallelogram, one of the two. We have an irregular quadrilateral, and then we have a trapezoid. I can see that these two sides are parallel, therefore it makes that a trapezoid. So I need to draw something that's not a quadrilateral. So go ahead and press pause, draw something that's not a quadrilateral over here, and then explain in a sentence why it is not a quadrilateral. Press pause and draw it and answer it. And then when you're done, press play, and I'll show you what I did. All right. I chose to make a triangle. A triangle is not a quadrilateral. Now, maybe you chose a pentagon or a hexagon or an octagon. Anything that does not have 4 sides would have fit here. So why is my polygon not a quadrilateral? I am not going to write it out here. That would take forever. I'm just going to explain it. My polygon is not a quadrilateral because it only has 3 sides and it only has 3 angles. To be a quadrilateral, you must have 4 sides and 4 angles. So hopefully you chose one of those. If you drew a square, a rectangle, that would not have been correct because it has 4 sides and 4 angles. We had to choose one that is not a quadrilateral. Most of you probably chose something correct. Now we're going to try to scroll through here. Here we go. B. Here are 3 examples of a square. Draw a quadrilateral that is not a square. So now we got to make sure it's a quadrilateral, but one that is not a square. So go ahead and press pause, draw it, then explain why it's not a square. And then I will do the same. All right, I just drew a really bad rectangle. So I'm going to explain why my bad rectangle is not a square. My rectangle is not a square because it does not have four sides of equal length. My top is the same as the bottom, but my left is the same as the right, but they are not all the same. A rectangle and square are pretty close together, but a square has four of sides of equal length, but this one only has the opposite sides that are equal. You could have drawn a trapezoid, you could have drawn a rhombus, you could have drawn a parallelogram. Just a square has to have four right angles and four sides of equal length. So as long as you explained why it's not a square, you would have been fine. Let me scroll down here. Once again, please, if I scroll too far. Here are three examples of a rectangle. Draw a quadrilateral that is not a rectangle. So here are three rectangles, and I kind of went over the rectangle right before. So you know that a rectangle has opposite sides that are the same, opposite sides that are parallel, and it has four right angles. All right, so draw one that's not a rectangle. So go ahead and press pause, draw it, and then explain why it's not a rectangle. Here's my shape that is not a rectangle. And if you can guess what that is, you should be able to know. It only has one pair of parallel sides. So my shape is a trapezoid. So why is it not a rectangle? I would explain down here. It's not a rectangle because it only has one pair of parallel sides. A rectangle has two. I could have also said that my trapezoid has only one pair of sides have equal length. My top and my bottom are not equal length, but my left and my right are. So to be a rectangle, you have to have two. So that, now you could have chose a square, you could have chose a rhombus. As long as you explained using your characteristics or your attributes, you would be right. Let me scroll down here. Here are three examples of a rhombus. Draw a quadrilateral that is not a rhombus. So a rhombus, we know from old Mr. Rhombus who sat on that square, it just squashed that square down. So we want to draw a picture that is not a rhombus. So here's a rhombus, and somebody will say, wait a minute, that's a square. But remember, a square is everything. And then here's also a square just turned to the side. Now a rhombus does not need to have right angles, but this one obviously does. So go ahead and press pause. Draw a quadrilateral that's not a rhombus and explain why. See if I can make a better rectangle here. I once again chose a rectangle. I'm going to explain why it's not a rhombus. A rectangle is not a rhombus because all four sides are not the same length. A rhombus has to have four sides which are the same length. A rectangle does not. So that is why my quadrilateral is not a rhombus. This will guide us through the very beginning, and I'm going to do another screencast here, hopefully going over the share and show. All right, so hopefully you learned a little bit about how to draw your quadrilaterals and compare them to one another.